Hello everybody, my name is Dave Jackson and welcome back to Tales from the Backlog, where each week I'm joined by a guest to deep dive a game from our backlogs. Today's game is Despelote, but before we get into that, a few quick things. If this is your first time here, first of all, thank you for stopping by. Here is how spoilers work on the show. We're not going to spoil the story of Despelote for a while, and so if you haven't played, if you don't want to know what happens, fear not. We will announce when spoilers are coming, and there is also a timestamp down in the show notes for when the spoilers begin. And if you like the show, please consider supporting the show any way that you can. You can do so monetarily on Patreon. That's patreon.com/realdavejackson. You can also tell a friend. You can leave a review, like and comment on YouTube, things like that. They're all very helpful for people to find the show, and that's what we want. But I am not here by myself today. I have a wonderful first-time guest on the show, a friend of the show, a writer for Endless Mode, as well as many other places around the internet, GameSpot, and lots of other places, and a World Cup champion, first World Cup champion on the show. Welcome, Moises Taveras.
The crowd goes wild.
Yeah. Great to have you on the show, man. I was really excited to especially have you on for Despelote today, and I'm just really happy that we were able to make this happen. So thank you.
Thank you. The listeners won't know this, but this has been a long delayed podcast. I think you have been trying. You've been reaching out about trying to get me on the pod since just after PAX in May.
Yeah.
And we are recording this on July 30th.
Yeah. Well, the episode's not even going to come out until September, so that's the cool part about this show is
happy fall, everybody.
Yeah, happy fall. Time means nothing. It's over 90 degrees outside right now. Hopefully, it's not the same outside when people are listening to this. So,
God, if by the time that this podcast comes out, I am back in a hoodie, I would be so happy.
Oh yeah. I dream of hoodie weather for sure. So Despelote today. Despelote is an autobiographical adventure game developed by Julián Cordero and Sebastián Valbuena, published by Panic for contemporary consoles and PC in 2025. As far as I know, they say a Switch version is coming, so that does include the Switch this time. Again, maybe by the time you hear this. The director of the games were two directors, Julián Cordero and Sebastián Valbuena, producer Gabe Cuzillo, hopefully I'm saying that right, and elevator pitch time. If you're here and you don't know what Despelote is, we have quick pitches. I say it's slice of life, back to childhood, where all you have is a soccer ball and not a whole lot of adult supervision. Moises, what would you say?
I think this is the brownest game alive. This is the most not Dominican because it's specifically not Dominican, but it's the most Latino, Latina, Latine game that I think I've ever played. It is, I think, the best nostalgic game that I've ever played, probably, and the number one game to compete with FIFA, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. And I think that's what they're going for there. They're really trying to go head to head with FIFA, if anything, with this game.
Rematch might pose a little bit of competition, but I think Despelote's got it in the bag for sure.
Right. Now, it's interesting you mention that you think it's one of the best Latina games out there. I really love games that take me to a different part of the world and kind of just put me there. I did a whole episode on the show a couple years ago now talking about games that are set in real places, in real times, but not like the United States, not Japan, not the UK, stuff like that. So this game really fits in there. And it was part of the reason that I wanted to play this. But part of the other reason I wanted to play this was because you wrote a really excellent review on Digital Trends for the game. So what was it? Was it just that thing that you just said, like when you first found out what this game was about, you were like, yep, have to play it? Or was it something else?
Yeah, I mean, the look of the game definitely drew me in at first.
Mm-hmm.
I forget exactly when I first saw Despelote. Thinking about it, it was probably at like a Day of the Devs showcase
Hmm.
probably a few years ago. I've been kind of waiting on Despelote for a while now. I think it's been about 2 years since I first learned about it, and I think I wrote about it, um, not for Endless Mode, but for Paced Games, back when I interned there, or maybe was a freelancer there and went
Hmm.
to like SGF or something like that. And so I've been seeing it for a while now, and the look definitely drew me in.
Yeah.
Um, for folks who might not know, the game has an interesting art style that I sometimes struggle to like capture in words.
Hmm.
Sepia tone is like the one that comes to mind like immediately. The world is kind of drenched in that like kind of amber glow of like a picture with a sepia filter over it.
Hmm.
But it's not just that. Like it, I in my review, I think I called it like a world that looks like an old picture kind of warped by damage from the sun
Yeah.
almost.
Hmm.
Instead of just like darks against like the sepia tone, it's like purplish blues and violets as well.
Hmm.
And then all of that, but the characters and like the brief glimpses of the main character Julián that you get all look like illustrations. They're like black and white illustrations that like you would find maybe in a child's sketchbook or something
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
And they all have this kind of almost sticker quality to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
um and yeah, like that just won me over immediately. And then I got to know what the game was actually about,
Yeah.
and it was a game about a kid, a brown kid like me, in Ecuador, who just wanted to play and love soccer.
Hmm.
And I really love like walking sims.
Hmm.
I know that that term is sometimes derogatory, sometimes it's complimentary. I think we've largely, as an industry and culture, like moved past calling things walking sims. I feel like I
Yeah.
don't
We've
hear that
we've taken
term.
it back. It's like a we say it and we know what it is and we're not disparaging things by saying
Yeah,
walking sim anymore. Yeah.
yeah. But well, I think we tend to call them like narrative games now. I feel like I haven't heard somebody call a game a walking sim in a long time.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it is a walking and like kicking sim,
Yeah.
where you are a small kid just kind of wandering around your neighborhood at a pivotal moment in like the culture and history of Quito specifically, but Ecuador
Yeah.
widely. And the the look of it, and then that like intensely intimate pitch for the story just kind of made me need to play the game. And then I think I played it at a show, and it's not a game that demos great in a live
Right.
environment like that.
Hmm.
But I still loved it nonetheless. And I just kind of told myself like, look, no matter what, it looks like this, and it is made by these kinds of people.
Hmm.
And like, we don't get that spotlight all that often. So no matter what, I will make the time for this game. And so I just
Nice.
kind of put it in my back pocket for years.
Hmm.
And I think I wrote about it in 2023, that I was looking forward to it in 2024, and then in 2024 it didn't. But then they were like, but it's on the way, and then it finally got here earlier this year in 2025. And
Yeah.
special. It's a special
Yeah.
game.
Hmm. And are you a sports fan? Because that was part of the pitch for me too, to have a game that's not it's not a sports game, it's a game about sports. And there's a difference there.
So coincidentally enough, like you have caught me the same week that I published a piece
Okay.
that is about a different game. It's about a few different games, but mostly it's about this game Wheel World that
Oh,
just came
right.
out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and how playing that game and a lot of other games this year, Despelote being among them, kind of knocked loose this thing in my head that I feel like I had been repressing for a long time. And it is that I'm like a pretty sporty guy, actually. I
Hmm.
never talk about myself like a sporty guy. I never act much like a sporty guy these days. I'm not exactly the gamer stereotype where I sit on my couch and just play games all day.
Hmm.
I am actively trying to find other things to do all the time these days that's not related to games.
Hmm.
But these games kind of reminded me that, like, yeah, as a kid and even like as a teenager before I threw my life away and dedicated myself to the cult of PlayStation, um, I did a lot outside. I was like always touching grass. In my Despelote review, I talk about how I would spend my summers in the Dominican Republic visiting my family, and they all had like their own routines, and so I was just kind of a visitor, and
Hmm.
they tended to my every need. They like catered to me whatever I wanted, but like I would spend a lot of time just kind of by myself drilling like soccer balls at the wall and like just trying to get my aim down.
Yeah.
I used to bike a lot. I signed up for football like the second that I got to middle school because I wanted to like get out there and do something else. I stopped playing any kind of baseball after I accidentally swung a metal bat at a friend's nether regions.
Oh no.
But I did it. You know, I used to play a little baseball.
Uh-huh.
Um, I when I like tried to get in with like all the cool kids at my church, like we would play like a lot of handball, and we would play a lot of football after
Hmm.
like service on Sundays. I was a big sports kid, and then like I kind of dropped off of it. I mostly followed football, like American football, for the last decade or so.
Hmm.
Um, but then recently, I've really found myself coming to appreciate sports again, and I've been trying to like carve out space for it in my life in some way or another,
Yeah.
whether that's like going to a game or like making plans with friends that have less to do with playing video games and more with like, no, let's go outside and maybe like do a pickup basketball game or whatever.
Hmm.
So I lapsed sports guy, but definitely the fastest fucking kid on the block growing up.
Yeah. Um, so like when you said earlier that this is one of the most nostalgic games, I think that like for a lot of us, because I grew up playing sports too, and I'm still like a huge sports fan. I probably spend too much time watching sports and getting mad about it today. But like I played, mostly basketball and baseball when I was younger, and so like the nostalgia angle
By the way,
of
for
yeah.
those who don't know, Dave is like 7 feet tall.
That's right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
am 7 feet tall. If you're being nice to everyone around me, I'm actually a lot taller than that. So like the sports angle was the thing that made me want to play Despelote because like I think that sports has like a really interesting role in culture, and there's just not a whole lot of stories, media, I think, that are about the culture around the sport and not about like the team itself. Like when you think of sports movies, they're usually about the team. They're not about the fans. And there's a
Yeah.
couple movies that are maybe about the fans. Like if anyone watched Green Street Hooligans back in, when that came out and thought it was the coolest movie ever, like I did. But there's not a whole lot.
Tell me more about Green Street Hooligans because I've never heard this name in my
It's
life.
yeah, so it's like it's a soccer hooligan movie. So like, fans of the teams go beat the shit out of each other and stuff. I haven't seen it since like it's been close to 20 years since I've seen the movie. So
Mm.
that's about all I remember is soccer hooligans beating the shit out of each other. But like that's kind of what I mean when I say like we've got a bunch of movies that are about the teams, not a whole lot of movies that are about the fans and not
Mm.
about like how sports can bring people together no matter what else is going on around them. People can rally around the sports team. And that's something that I've experienced in my life. So I was excited to see it in Despelote. And also, taking me to a different place of the world and giving me a little hour and a half. Should have mentioned also the game is not very long. We skipped over that. It's an hour and a half game, so like that is a draw for me to play it too. But getting me to experience somebody else's life or their memories as they're able to create it within a game. And then this sports angle is really, really strong. And I really felt it playing this. Like, I think the game really, really executed on putting you in like childhood memories. So there's like two main things, right? Taking you back to childhood, three things: childhood, sports culture, and then putting you in this place, this very specific time and place. And I think the game really like knocked all three of those out of the park. That's the wrong sports metaphor for this this podcast, but
yeah, you gotta use the one that I put in the review.
Okay,
I think I put that it was like a miraculous hat trick or something.
Hell yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And three for three, it's a hat trick. See,
Yeah.
that's why you're the writer. That's why I'm not just up here talking. I use many words instead of few words. So I think this game is really good, and those things that made me want to play it were all really, really well done. And then there's a thing later in the spoiler section that we'll talk about where the game kind of takes on a little bit of a meta turn. I'm not going to say what happens, but I did say earlier, this is an autobiographical thing. This is one of the developers specifically tapping into their own childhood memories and sharing them with all of us. And I thought that the way that played out was really interesting. And I'm excited to like dig into how we feel about the way that all turned out. But overall, I think this game is excellent. I played it twice to get ready for the show because I wanted to refresh, but also I wanted to just play it again, see if I could do some different stuff, piss off some different people in the park, But yeah, really good game. And I mean, I read your review. I know how you feel about it, but for the people who didn't, were the unfortunate souls who didn't read what you wrote, how did you end up feeling about Despelote?
I think it's the masterpiece, kind of.
Mhm.
It's the only game I've ever given a perfect review.
Ooh. See, I didn't
Granted,
know that.
I've been around for a while, but like I haven't reviewed every game under the sun. But I've
Mhm.
reviewed quite a few games, and I've played a lot of games. And it is one of the very few that I feel like has ever been truly deserving of like an otherwise perfect score.
Mhm.
Yeah, it. I don't even know that I could really point to blemishes or like issues that I have with it. Like I really tried when I was writing my review.
Mhm.
And then by the end of it, I just kind of like submitted the draft, put it all in the CMS, uploaded it and everything, and I was like, for the digital trends review, you like have to do pros and cons,
Mhm.
and I couldn't come up with a single con. I tried to genuinely think of anything that I didn't like about the 2 hours that I spent with the game,
Yeah.
and it was faultless in my eyes. So I think incredibly highly of this game, and I think I was a narrative person over like mechanics person for a long time.
Mhm.
Maybe because I was like a pretentious teenager and young adult who like really wanted to see the like industry and culture like evolve, and I thought that like narrative was the thing that games really needed to get to that place.
Mhm.
And then I think something flipped a while ago where I was just like, no, I mean, it's not one or the other. It's typically a healthy balance of both, as well as a million other things going on in games. Games are
Mhm.
really complicated technical art.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game kind of, I don't know, it nailed it, and it nailed it in 2 hours. So eat your heart out, Neil Druckmann. I don't know.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a break. We'll listen to a bit of music or maybe some soundscape. I'm not exactly sure what we'll do here, but we are going to take a break. When we come back, we will set up the story of Despelote.
El comercio a un punto de la clasificación, a un punto de Corea-Japón 2002, que el sí se puede se escucha en todo el Ecuador.
In Despelote, you play as an 8-year-old kid named Julián. who is modeled again after the game director Julián Cordero's own life, but aged up a bit because he was a little bit too young in the real world. And in the game, it's 2001, and Ecuador is making its run to qualifying in its first ever World Cup. And so this was the 2002 World Cup. It's the one in Japan and Korea. And real quick, just interesting thing. So like we have this thing where the city and everyone around is rallying behind the team as they're making this run to qualify for the World Cup for the first time. That World Cup is also the one where South Korea made a really awesome run throughout the tournament in front of their home fans. And I only know this because I lived in Korea for a long time, and I cannot tell you how many times people told me about their memories of that World Cup. Anytime soccer or sports generally get brought up, people still talk about it over 20 years later because of how special that was for them. And so like it immediately helps you kind of understand why is it so important for Ecuador to make it to the World Cup. Like it's an interesting thing. We have like one of the themes I think in here is like rallying behind your country, but in like a very not in like an unhealthy, fascist type of way.
Yeah, not in a very like nationalistic way.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of like a community thing. Like we can all show our support for like this team that's like representing us on a global stage. And it's really cool. Like I really love this angle. I really love how the game explores how the community like just gets World Cup fever, and shit basically shuts down when these because there's 5 qualifying matches that you kind of like go through these scenes, and these matches are happening alongside whatever you're doing. Stuff shuts down and stuff like that, and I thought that the way they did that was really, really good.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of I feel like a lot in the last decade or so, I feel like New York sports teams have had some close runs like this. Mm-hmm. I know like the Mets have had like a close run.
Yeah, Yankees last year.
The Knicks had like a really good run earlier this year.
Yeah, they've had some fun teams lately. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I always remember, I can't point to the specific year because I've never followed baseball all that closely, but it was like the first time that the Mets had been close to qualifying in ages, apparently. Mm-hmm. And I think I was out of town while it happened. And had you asked me before that trip if I knew like Mets fans in New York, I would have probably told you no, I don't. Mm-hmm. There's undoubtedly Mets fans in New York. We have the Yankees, but also people really love riding for the Mets, the underdogs, mm-hmm. who are like largely regarded as like kind of the real New York team, and Yankees are the prestige bullshit one. But you would see Yankee caps everywhere. I saw Yankee caps exclusively. My father was exclusively a Yankees fan. He only wore Yankees caps. I knew that my best friend was a Mets fan, and that mm-hmm. was about it. But he never bragged about it. He never boasted it. He never wore any merch that showed it off. And then the Mets came close to qualifying, and I saw this like a switch flipped in New York, mm-hmm. and suddenly everybody in my neighborhood was like wearing their like Mets bomber jackets and like Mets jerseys, Mets hats. And I was like, one, where did you all come from? Did you all just suddenly like poof into like existence? Like
they come out of the subway tunnels.
Yeah, exactly. But it was also like this really heartwarming thing of through my life, I had never seen New York kind of rally around a thing like that until that point. New York has obviously rallied for other things in my lifetime, much more tragic things. Mm-hmm. But also I was 3 charitably when that happened, so I have no recollection of some of that stuff. Like I was a child, and so it was really heartwarming to kind of see firsthand this this sense of like homegrown community
Yeah.
that I had seen a lot portrayed in like media and like seen a lot in stories that I read, or like seen in news stories about other places, but never one that I actually saw like in my own backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when I think of community is like intrinsically tied to sports now in my
Yeah.
head because of that. And so it was really great seeing that reflected in Despelote. But also, and I love that you have that experience of like being in Korea and hearing about
Mm-hmm.
like Korea's run at the same World Cup, because like I feel like a lot of history reflects like the big events, you know, like the tragedies, the revolutions, the wars, the like
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff, and it so rarely reflects like the kind of boots on the ground culture that happens like in the day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really love that you kind of got like that firsthand experience of you were in Korea, and I'm sure you learned about Korean history while you were there. I'm sure that
Yeah.
you learned about Korean history like leading up to your time in Korea. But I do love you specifically calling out that like the thing that people don't forget, the thing that people always bring up more than the huge events that change like the trajectory of a nation, are like these things that the people in it take part in.
Yeah.
And I love how that happened to you. I love how in Despelote, and I'm sure we will get to it, like there are kind of interstitials that provide glimpses as to what's happening in Quito and in Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's all kind of like background noise almost to
Yeah.
Julián's like love of the sport, and how like it brings him into close proximity with his classmates, how it sort of distances him from his family a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
because he kind of tunnel visions it,
Uh-huh.
and just like how like transfixed a people can become by like these things that maybe matter more to like our development and like our sense of community than, I don't know, the ongoing politics of the world.
Yeah, those moments are really important, and I do think that like if you were to read about the history of Korea in 2002, I don't know if a history book would mention the World Cup run, but it meant a fucking lot to a lot of people there. There's another example of that, maybe on an even more niche kind of level, where in 2018, when I was living there, the Winter Olympics were in Korea, and the women's curling team made a run, and like
Mm.
I don't remember if they won a medal, but they won a lot, and they were like they did really well, and they got this nickname. They were called the Garlic Girls because they all came from this countryside city that was famous for garlic farms, and like the whole country rallied around the women's curling team, and it was like there were memes, and the kids at school were all excited about the curling team, and just like another example of how we have something we can band together for, like no matter what else is going on in our country, no matter what else is going on in our lives, like we can all root for this women's curling team. They're making a run. We can throw our support behind them. And they became like celebrities in Korea, curling team, a country not known for curling as far as I know. So like you said, like those moments when people band together, like if you were to go to Korea and be like, hey, ask a person like, you remember the Garlic Girls? They'd be like, yeah, of course I remember the one the one on the curling team yelling "Yeonmi" at the other person who's doing the brush and shit like that. Like it was a whole thing over there, and it's something that like just hard to understand if you weren't there during those moments. And Despelote like really hits that stuff. There's a part in Despelote when you go to a wedding and it's during one of the games, and like it's a big deal that the wedding is going on during one of the matches. Like everyone wants to watch the match, and the people who are having the party are like really upset that no one seems to care about their wedding.
Yeah.
But like I live in Ohio. Ohio State football, the biggest fucking thing in the state. If you have a wedding on a Saturday during football season, that's going to happen at your wedding. Like that is that's a real thing. And like, I've never seen a video game be like, yeah, this is a real thing. Like, don't have your fucking wedding during an important sports event, or people are not going to pay attention. They're going to be watching on their phone or worse. So like this, like culture of sports is so important to the story that they're telling here. And the other thing that you mentioned is that there's a lot of bad stuff happening in Ecuador at the time. They had a hyperinflation problem. Their money was like worthless. People were, lining up at the bank because it's like, oh, this bank has money. Like, we'll go over there and see if we can get some cash out and stuff like that. There were electrical blackouts. Like, all of this is explained throughout the game. But these matches, this qualifying run, gives people something to look forward to and something to get excited about, and something that the community can band together and, just feel like you have something to root for. And I don't think sports gets enough credit for giving people that. Sports also has a lot of negative effects on people and interpersonal like relationships and stuff like that. But there is like this magic when there is a sports run happening, that it's not that you can forget what's going on in the outside world, but like during the 90 minutes of the match, the outside world doesn't matter. And it's really cool. This game fucking nails that aspect of it.
It also, I think to me, a reason why like sports has become like an especially important thing recently, and a thing that I'm kind of trying to carve out more time for.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it has a little bit to do with a thing that resonates from Despelote. So I think maybe last year, yes, it was definitely last year, I took my father to his first baseball game. He's an immigrant. He came to America 30 some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He has slaved away basically every day of his life since getting here to provide for my mom, provide for me, provide for my older brother. Typical kind of immigrant tale. My dad, so famously bad at taking any time for himself. He takes naps in the middle of the day, but that's about it. Otherwise, he was up at 6 a.m, and he was back home. His days ended at like 11 o'clock or midnight. So he never had time for anything else. And any time that he could take for himself, he gave it to other people. He has traveled back home. Whereas where I would travel back to DR for like vacation, he goes back to DR to like help his family like with problems that they're having, help them get businesses off the ground, delegate tasks around like big things going on. And like on Sundays he would stay and run like the laundry while my mom would take the day to go to church. My uncle, who they also worked with, was like a pastor at the church, and I would go to church. My dad has never taken any time for himself to do anything that he wants. It means that he has rarely left the city, let alone done things in the city. And so after I lived with my parents for the longest time, and then they finally moved out about a year and a half ago now. And so I was working and we didn't have much time to like hang out. I told him, hey, for your birthday this year, I would love to take you to like a baseball game. You've always had the Yankees on everywhere that I go, but I know that you've never been to an actual game. And we went, and it was a baseball game, like you go, you drink, you have hot dogs, you watch a game, which I didn't realize the new like rules in baseball at the time that make it go by way faster.
Oh yeah.
So it was also over before like we knew it. And I thought, this is fun. Like, this is a thing that I could do more regularly, more casually. I should like do this with family more. I should do this with friends more. It's an excuse to like get out and be around people. A few months ago, like I talked to my dad while I was visiting, and we were talking about some other shit. And like that game comes up, and he more or less tells me that like it is one of the most significant memories he feels like he has made with me. Because he always felt like I grew up kind of very distinct from him. I grew up very American, whereas he grew up in poverty in DR. And he doesn't like resent that like he was able to spoil me and take care of me. And he doesn't resent my like how I am culturally versus like the typical Dominican or anything. But he has always felt like there's been like a wall between us. And that it's been hard for him to like get over the wall or to convince me to like get over the wall for him. And he was like, yeah, I think back on like that game, and I just like love that was a thing that we could do together, and like I'm always going to cherish it. Besides the fact that like you took me to my first game, it's just I really loved that, you know, for the first time in a long time we made the time for each other, and we made the time for this thing, and like it was a thing that we could share. And like that is like the thing about soccer and sports, and how like Despelote talks about it all, that like it's one of the many things about it that like really resonates with me, is that like it is people, it is like people disconnecting from all the other things, especially like in this day and age where like there's a million and one distractions. I'm literally looking at you on a screen right now instead of being outside, and it's like I love doing this, and I'm glad that we can do this, but like I would also rather interface with like you or anybody else in my life out there rather than here. There's like some like even here I'm looking at 5 million different things on my screen that are like distracting me from having like an entire conversation with you. But like for like a day, me and my dad were able to like cut out all of the other bullshit and all of the other noise.
Yeah.
And we were able to just be together at a game, and like it was a wonderful thing for me, and like apparently to my father like meant even more than that. And that's a thing about like how this game talks about sports, that like has really stuck with me like after all these months.
Yeah It's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. And it is, like you said, one of the beautiful things about sports is that it can forge connections between people. I mean, that's something that I really enjoyed about you know, my childhood, and it happens less and less now as my parents get older, but going to baseball games with them, and it's baseball especially is just a great excuse to spend time with people and just sit and chat, because it's just perfectly built up so you don't have to pay attention all the time. You can just enjoy each other's company, enjoy the sights and sounds, the beers and hot dogs and stuff like that. But yeah, and like you said, Despelote like really makes it a point to hone in on the value of sports in a community, maybe a little bit less like between the family and the game, I would say, because Julián is like obsessed with soccer to the point where he shuts out other people that are obsessed with soccer. Like nobody is into it as much as he is in the game. But that's another interesting part about Despelote, is how it hones in on like childhood and like the feeling of being a kid. And I think that it hits both possibilities. Like I'm not sure if they're going for like trying to capture the experience of being a kid and being like having that hyper tunnel vision like you talked about, or if it's capturing childhood memories where you can't remember all the details. You just remember the really important stuff. And maybe it's because you had that tunnel vision. But that's another thing that I think Despelote does really, really well, is Julián is 8 years old and only cares about soccer, does not give a shit about anything else going on.
Oh, he's a nuisance because of it.
Yeah,
He becomes a menace to the neighborhood. He sees a soccer ball everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's an actual one, whether it's a bottle, whether it's a movie in the store that his mom works at.
Taking the fucking Shrek DVD off the shelf and kicking it around. Yeah. And so like I was that kid with a basketball when I was younger. I took a basketball everywhere I went. I dribbled a basketball everywhere. It probably pissed everybody off because it's the sound of this ball bouncing all over the place. And like that was me when I was a kid. And again, games don't hone in on this. You play as LeBron James in a basketball game. You don't play as the kid who's obsessed with LeBron James in a basketball game. So like putting you in the shoes of this kid who only cares about soccer, like he daydreams about soccer. He wants to play the soccer video game all the time. It's really, really well done. Now, you mentioned the visual style earlier, and I think this is one of the things that really gets you in that mode of being a kid, or again, those childhood memories where you remember the specific thing but not the periphery details, right?
Mhm.
So the visual style is this 1-bit art style where there are 2 colors present on the screen. And so they're often like big contrasting colors like orange and blue or green and yellow, or like you said, like 2 slightly different shades of, or 2 different shades of a dark brown or something like that, a purple, something like that. It changes the color palettes a lot to keep things fresh. But what that visual style does, like you said earlier, you have this 1-bit style. Think Return of the Obra Dins, another popular game that uses this style. But the things that are important, like your parents, your sister, your friends, soccer balls, and other objects that you could possibly kick, those are all highlighted with like that sticker, cardboard, or like childhood doodle type art style. They stand out. Everything else is kind of anonymous within this art style. Other people, you can barely make them out. Storefront signs, you can barely make them out. But the things that are important to Julián pop, and they're really present, and they're the only things you're really going to notice any detail about. Because if you're obsessed with soccer and all you care about is where's the soccer ball and where is the TV that's playing the match, then that's all the kid's going to pay attention to. You're not going to pay attention to these random NPCs that are just in the park. They're not important to you. So I think this art style is perfect for putting you in the shoes of a little kid and getting you in that mindset.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. It's so like expertly done, and also is like so minimalistic. I love that it makes the most out of what almost seems like very little. Yeah, and like I don't have much to add more to that point other than just like it is there's a lot to drink in about the characters and the things that you like, the things that you can interact with, things that can pop in the environment, and like what it kind of means to Julián that like some of these things are bring like attention to themselves as much as they do, because it's like like his family obviously and like his toys in his room are obviously reconstructed in that kind of outline that makes them pop, makes them like denotes their significance. But there's also like just like for the many people that do kind of like fade into the background, there are also like random characters in the world who are constructed in the same way. Like there's a guy who just kind of like plays his guitar in the park.
There's your teacher who you can see outside of school. You can fuck with him.
Yeah. There's like a teenage couple that are being like really gross about their PDA in the park, and like I think it shoo you off if you like start kicking things at them. There's
another one too. Did you notice like, so you're talking about like objects that you can interact with, like you can flush the toilet, for example, because I don't know, a little kid might think that's funny. You can also turn on the burner on the stove because that's little kids are interested in that. So,
and then your parents like turn it off, right? Like if you turn it on.
I was afraid. I don't know why I was afraid. It's a video game, but I was afraid to leave it on, so I turned it off. But I don't know, maybe your mom comes in and yells at you or something.
I think it was either that or like, because while your parents are talking in the kitchen because they're cooking, and you're just like in the living room playing your game, you can stop playing the game and you can start interacting with things in the house. And I think one of the things that you can interact with is like, and this is I don't know like if sometimes I don't know how to talk about this without like being very direct. Dave, you are a white man. In like growing up, did you also have like a radio like in your kitchen that like played music, like your parents blasted music out of it while they were doing anything? Because that is such a specific thing that I can recall. Like, the spot in my kitchen is almost like there's no radio there anymore, but I almost leave it open to a radio, despite the fact that my mom took it with her. But it was like I have like such a specific sense memory of waking up on the weekends, and my mom isn't going into work, and so she's going to put on the Dominican radio station. She's going to turn it up really loud, and like she's going to listen to that, or she's going to put on like her Christian music, and I'm going to wake up to that. It, like I hear the sound of it, and I hear like my mom singing, and I can smell the food in the like it's such a specific memory to me, and like seeing it recreated in here, and like seeing the same kind of elements like highlighted, really kind of like sold me on the fact that I don't see a lot of stories about like people like me. But there are so many universal things that we do actually share, and it can feel so isolating sometimes, thinking that stuff is just your life, and it's not reflected anywhere that you look. And so I really like that was a touch that really meant a lot to me, just because I was like, oh, you get exactly how like a young like Spanish kid works. Like you know it because I know it, and the some other brown kid somewhere else knows it. Like this is how we were brought up.
Yeah, it's great to, and like for me, I don't have that like specific thing from when I was growing up or something, but we all have similar, like you said, sense memories. Like if there was something else that connected with something from my childhood super strongly, it would take me straight back to that memory and all the other senses that come along with it. I think that's another really strong point about Despelote, is taking you to that place. It's not just taking you to childhood, even though I think it does that really, really well in a kind of universal way, especially with the art style, but then taking you to the developer, Julián's specific childhood in this specific place at this specific time, with all the sights and sounds. And so like the radio in the kitchen is a great example. But then when you go outside and you hear, the sounds of the street, the sound of the TVs in the storefronts, maybe someone outside has a boombox, all of that stuff is really strong to just put you there. And like, I can't compare it to a real experience that I have, like with those specific things, but I'm trusting this person to take me to this place. And I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be authentic, because that's the point of Despelote, is to take you to this specific time and place through the eyes of a child during this, cultural moment, and all the things that come with that, what the people in the park are doing. Maybe the game is not on, maybe the game's about to start. What are people in the park doing? Or what family event did I have during this time? Or like, what was school like? Like stuff like that, all recreated. So even though these are not my own experiences, this is why I love games like this, to help me like vicariously experience just a little hit of that, of someone else's experience. That's the beauty of games like this. And that's why I did a whole podcast where we just listed a bunch of games like this, where like, maybe you're not from an indigenous tribe in Canada, but here's this game that is made by people about their experience, and you can live a little bit, in air quotes, live a little bit of their experience through this game. And had Despelote been out when we recorded that episode, we would have surely talked about it, because it's a great example of stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's for this and for like so many other reasons that I'm sure we'll touch on, like Despelote feels to me like such an important, not even game, but like piece of like an archive. Like it is so specific, but like more than even specific, it feels like historical. That's incredible. I will keep saying that it is incredible.
It's great. I do want to note the voice acting. The game is fully voice acted. It's all in Spanish, which it should be. I enjoy that.
I'm glad that you made that point and that I didn't have to.
Yeah. No, I when I play games that are like very specifically set in a particular place, I would like to play in the local language and just read the subtitles.
Did you also play Clair Obscur with French?
I've heard the French is really good. But like that's not real France. So, but anyway, I like that Despelote doesn't give you an option for English voice acting, or that they didn't make that a priority. Like it's not set in an English speaking country. It wouldn't feel like it if everyone was speaking English. So that's part of it. That's part of what puts you there. I also just want to shout out the music. I think the music's really good. It's pretty like there's not always music playing in the game, but it's like tactically deployed in a way that really like hits some emotional beats, or you hear the music in the kitchen, like you said, or you hear someone's boombox out, if you're kicking like beer bottles around in a parking lot, there's a guy with a boombox and you get to listen to the music he's listening to. So that music was done by Sebastián Valbuena, one of the two primary developers for the game. And that's like another part. It's like this sound design, voice acting, music, all helps put you there too, along with, the plot and the characters and stuff like that.
Yeah. Genuinely some of the best sound design I think I've seen in a game. It's so sharp, and it's I've been rewatching. This is going to sound completely not related for a brief second.
Okay.
I was rewatching this show on HBO Max, The Pit. That is, it's like 24 meets ER. It follows it follows the workers of an emergency room over the course of like an extremely long shift. And one of the conscious decisions that they made for the sound design of the show and the season is that you listen to music on a character's headphones at the very beginning of the first episode. Other than that, the only sounds that you hear are the characters talking and like a slightly amplified ambient noise from around the emergency room. And Despelote kind of reminds me of that, where this game does have music again, like it does deploy it tactically, like you said. But a large part of what I love about it is that it is just kind of the sights and sounds of being in the town of Quito.
Yeah.
Like you hear Julián kicking like the glass bottle and it shattering as if it is literally happening like a few feet away from you. And that's not to suggest like it's raw, like it's obviously processed. It's all very polished. But I do love like the conscious effort to cut out a lot of the stuff that might pull you out of Quito for even a second, to make it feel like you actually just spent like an hour and a half there. Like not in a memory of Julián being there, but there next to Julián.
Yeah, it's just really well done at, I've kind of like broken this down into like three kind of efforts to put you in these three types of experiences. Like you're in this place, you are a child, and the community is banding around the soccer team as they're making this run. And it's just really great at all three of those things. We haven't yet really talked about, and you just brought it up, like what are you actually doing in Despelote? And so most of it is you play in first person, and it is in that kind of like walking sim mode. And most of the time you either have a soccer ball or something else to kick, or you will be presented with a soccer ball or something to kick soon. So what you're actually doing is the game will often give you like free time. It's recess at school, or you're about to go somewhere with your parents, but you leave in an hour and a half. So you have an hour and a half, your parents are getting ready, and you just got to kill time. And so you go and kick the soccer ball around, and maybe you find some friends in the park or something else to do. And so it has like a very simple, like pull the right stick back, flick it up to kick the ball, and then you run after the ball and go pick it up and kick it again. You can kick it against a wall. You can kick it at people in the park. You can get into some mischief if you want to. This is about the extent of like your interaction with the world as far as like a game mechanic. There is like a in-world video game that you play, which I think is pretty fun.
I love it.
Yeah, they just released a patch recently where you can just free play the video game, and it's fun.
I'm about to drop 1,000 hours in that.
in I forget the name of the game, but it's yeah, it's fun. And so like you kind of choose how you spend your time a little bit. You always have like a deadline, like, hey, we're leaving at noon. Make sure you're ready to go at noon, and you can just fuck off in the park until your mom comes and gets you at 12:45. It's like, where the fuck have you been? Like, you're late. And so like you have a little bit of freedom to mess around, do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, you are just kicking that soccer ball around. I thought it was fun. I never got tired of kicking the ball. So like they did make that satisfying. There's like a good sound effect when you kick the ball. The world is, if there is an NPC, they're probably reactive to you kicking the ball at them, fucking up their picnic, or there's a guy feeding birds in the park. And if you scatter the birds, he'll get mad at you. Like you can mess around and like see how people react to you, being a little Hellraiser sometimes. So that's like the gameplay of Despelote. It's very simple, but it's very effective.
Yeah. I love getting into mischief in this game.
Yeah.
Like you
It's
put
fun.
it. At one point, I think there's like a bunch of teenagers kind of hanging out in a parking lot.
Mhm.
And they're just kind of like, they're trying to be cool and chill. And I think they might even be trying to like sneak drinks, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And you can get like an empty glass bottle
Yeah.
and just start kicking it around like you would a ball.
Mhm.
And I like kicked it at them so many times. I think it refused to break for some reason. It was the sturdiest glass bottle known to man. I kept kicking at it at their heads, just trying to annoy them.
Uh-huh.
I really love this part. I mean, it's the entirety of the game. But
Yeah.
I really love like these moments where you do just get to fuck off and do whatever you want. Because it kind of reminds me of just like strolling around my neighborhood in DR.
Mhm.
And I think in my review, I think I called it like walking around and listening to bochinche, which
Mhm.
bochinche is like Spanish slang for gossip.
Yeah, you eavesdrop on everybody. Yeah.
You eavesdrop on every, like I loved going to, I think if you go to the store, your mom takes you to the store at one point, and I think she's kind of like, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to be shopping for a little bit. Just meet up with me back here.
Mhm.
And she like let go. She lets go of your hand, and like you're free to do anything. And I think I just kind of stood around for a while in the store because she also just immediately started talking to like the lady behind the counter, and I think they were talking about like some couple where I think the guy was cheating or something. And I was like, oh, you're just like my tias back home.
Mhm.
Like this is just what happens when like two of us get together or like anywhere. Like
Yeah.
it just you slip back into kind of being, I don't know. I'm so used to representations of like whenever you hear about like representation in games, like you always hear about the ones that are like really great,
Mhm.
because underrepresented people want to fight to see themselves in these works, but then sometimes I feel like they can be like too idealized, and they become like monolithic, and
Mhm.
like no group of people are a monolith. And so it's really great having this game where it's like, it's almost like we're all in on the joke, kind of like
Mhm.
it is the one game where like I see like a whole community of people who are meant to resemble me, and meant to resemble like my family, and meant to
Mhm.
resemble the people that I actually grew up with when I visited DR, or even like in like the Spanish neighborhoods that I grew up in here in New York. um and so it's really nice to see just kind of plain old people that I grew up with. Like
Yeah.
I see like a lot of my neighbors in Julian's neighbors. I see a lot of my mom in Julian's mom. Um, I see a lot of myself in Julian's little sister
Mm.
because I was the little sibling in my house, and
Mhm.
I despise Julian's little sister. She just yaps and yaps and has nothing like of substance to share. And it is so great that she is like that because that is so real.
Yeah. She's a little kid. She just wants to play with her brother, but he wants to do he doesn't want to play with her. He wants to do anything else.
Yep.
So it's like annoying by nature.
I just yapped at my brother, and like me and my brother have a great relationship now, but like growing up, I annoyed the shit out of him. I
Yeah.
know I did, and I know that he was entertaining me to the best of his ability. And Easy, if you ever hear this, I'm sorry that I
Mhm.
annoyed you. It's all love. But yeah, I just love these parts for like how real it feels to like that memory again that I have of just idling around these neighborhoods and not doing
Yeah.
anything. It is like Julián's lazy, hazy summer days, except it's not summer, it's like October.
Yeah. It is interesting. It's a good point you bring up. Like, the NPCs are not archetypes. They're not like outstanding in some archetypal way, we'll say.
No,
Like, they're just the person who runs the store, and the guy in the park feeding the birds. And there's a couple, having a picnic, and your teacher who doesn't like you because he doesn't think you work hard enough. And you probably don't work hard enough, but you're 8, so and so you have these there's the vendor selling the chochos, I think they're called.
I think so.
And he's like, if you overhear what he's talking about his food that he sells. And he tries to flirt with like your babysitter one time.
Yeah.
Like, it's like normal shit. So like that, again, the point of this game is to take you into a real place and real memories. And there's probably some embellishments made here and there because it's fiction, or it's a story, but like, that's storytelling. But it's not like, everybody's this huge outsized personality. Like, everyone feels like very normal people, including your parents. They feel like very normal people.
Yeah.
And again, credit to the writing, and just like this emphasis, I guess, on like, we want to present this as like just normal people, and then we all get excited about the soccer team, basically.
A question for you about like a point that you brought up earlier.
Yeah.
Were you frequently on time?
Oh, in the game?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Because the way time works is weird. It slips away from you really easily. And I think they did that on purpose, because what 8-year-old is great at being punctual, right?
Me, I was a
you were
I
on
was
time.
very punctual. So I'm asking because I find it so funny that I was late every time that my mom like told me, like in the game, every time that Julián's mom tells him, be here by this time, I would make the note in my head and be like, okay, I'm going to be here on time.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, every single time, even though I made a conscious effort, I was always late.
Yeah.
Which is so not like how I was such a mama's boy growing up. I was so pampered. If my mom told me to be at a place, I was there. I was rarely mouthy and rarely like disobedient.
Mm-hmm.
I was an asshole in the way that like kids can be assholes, because they can be
right.
very insensitive and selfish, because that's just kids.
Yeah.
But like, if I knew I had a deadline, I hit it until I was like 15. So I found it really funny that I was always late, and your mom berates you every time. I'm just like, I'm sorry, like I was just kicking soccer balls in the park when it suddenly started raining, and then we started slipping and sliding in the mud, and it tracks so well with like, I made a decision that I should not have made, but I made it anyways because I'm a kid, and like I have to deal with the consequences. And I will be sorry for like the hardship that this caused. But like at the end of the day, I'm just a kid.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like one time when I was, I don't know why my mom didn't beat my ass about this. Maybe because she's the nicest person in the world.
Uh-huh.
But we like got let out of class around a like winter, like Christmas break once in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was supposed to run immediately home to go with my mom and a cousin and my aunt to the airport to fly to Texas to see family. And instead, I went to the park with my friends and I had a snowball fight. And I ignored my phone. And so when we were done at the park and I finally checked my phone, I realized I had like 30 missed calls because my family was calling me because we were missing our flight to Texas.
Oh no.
Because I was having a snowball fight. And this is obviously much later than being like a dumb 8-year-old, but like it is. I love the specificity of this memory of like being a kid, thinking you're just innocently playing, and like shit just gets away from you.
Yeah,
it happened to me every time in this game.
Right. It captures the impulsiveness of kids to just be like, yeah, I have this, like, I'm supposed to be here at this time. I'm probably not even supposed to leave my house, but like the park's right over there and there's a soccer ball, so I'm going. And then the way that time slips away from you because you're having fun, and time barely matters when you're a little kid. It's just like, for me, it was like, time doesn't exist until the streetlights come on, and then it's time. We have to go home. If I don't go home soon, then I'm going to be in trouble. But those hours in between school letting out and the streetlights coming on they're this amorphous blob of whatever we're doing. So this game just captures that too. Everything that we've talked about that's like this game is trying to capture this, they capture it and they put you in that place just so well.
It's almost like it's a 10 out of 10 game.
It is almost like it's a 10 out of 10 game. This sounds like a good opportunity for us to go into our kind of like wrap up recommendations and stuff before we get into spoilers. Because believe it or not, if for anyone who's still here with us, there's quite a lot to talk about that we've been holding back, including a very interesting turn that the game takes. But before we get there, we'll do our recommendations. Let's listen to a bit of music first. We'll come back and we'll do that wrap up, housekeeping, stuff like that.
Váyanse de aquí con esas pelotas ya. No regresen más, por favor.
Hey. Tiene la pelota. Verás, puede ser buen gol, la verdad.
Ya, váyanse de aquí en este momento, muchachito. Voy a llamar a sus papás.
Hey. ¿Quién quiere la pelota ahora? Oye, señor, ¿qué le pasa? Oye, señor, ¿qué le pasa? ¿Les puede entregar el balón?
Before we get into spoilers, which will be coming up somewhat soon, we do a little section here where we basically answer the question like, who do you think this appeals to? Who do you think this game would most appeal to, most resonate with, etc.? So Moises, the guest always goes first. Who would you say you would most recommend Despelote to?
I have found from my own experience that I mostly recommend Despelote to people who don't play games all that much. I have like recommended it to my brother, who has then recommended it to like friends of his, and my brother grew up playing games but has like since stopped. And I think it really works for a few reasons. One is one that you brought up fairly early on. It's an hour and a half to play this game to completion. You mentioned that you played it twice. One, I assumed the first time, and then a second time to get re-familiar with it for this podcast. I was so kind of busy that I didn't have the time to play it. I just watched it in like the few hours while I was working leading up to this podcast and felt like I was perfectly caught up. Doesn't mean that you should watch it. You should definitely play it.
Yeah. It benefits from you being in there. Yeah.
It is for sure a thing that you need to be in the first time that you experience it, I feel. But the fact that it's so short, I think makes it such an easy sell to somebody who otherwise thinks that games are like these huge investments, which is not a wrong assumption. Games are typically huge investments. And I really like how this game is really the antithesis of that. It's like a tight 90. But it also makes it like much easier to revisit. I have so many games that I love that I almost feel like anxiety around revisiting because going the entire length of a game sometimes is days long, weeks long if it's something like fucking Baldur's Gate 3. And Despelote is very much not that. It's also, like you said before, pretty light on mechanics. It's just walking around, kicking a ball. in different contexts, in different, like, from different perspectives sometimes, but
Mhm.
it is largely that. And like, I think people who don't play games come to this with a more of a willingness to embrace its weird quirks. I think indie games can feel like so siloed off sometimes from like the rest of games culture,
Mhm.
because 90% of the people who like casually play games are more invested in like what's coming to the latest season of Call of Duty and when the next NBA 2K game is coming out, rather than
Mhm.
what's this weird little thing that shows up on my PlayStation Store page. But I feel like a lot of people who don't play games probably have like a richer background with like TV and movies and music, which are more willing to be experimental, and which wider audiences for those respective things, like they're more willing to embrace that stuff. Like it is more widespread and conventional for like those things to play with format and structure,
Mhm.
versus games, I feel. And so I think without the baggage of like, what is a game? What should a game do? Blah 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 blah. You come into Despelote with more willingness to embrace what it's doing, and then like, especially as we're gonna get to like the final kind of twists in it. And so yeah, I recommend it to those.
Mhm. Agreed. And for the for the people who are here with us on this show, they probably do play a lot of games. I would say that if what we've talked about so far sounds interesting to you and like you'd like to experience it for yourself, then it's a home run. Absolutely do experience it for yourself. I don't really have a lot of caveats, because if you're here with us, you've heard us talk about what it's like. So yeah, give it a try. It's very good. It's going to be very high on my game of the year list for 2025 for sure. It just like you said, it's a really tightly designed thing. It's a short experience, but it packs a real punch. And just want to reiterate, like it taps into a bunch of things that video game stories don't often tap into. And then it taps into stuff that, in my experience, even like movies and TV don't really tap into a whole lot, which is like that sports fan experience or putting you in a specific time and place. And it's just great at that. So, home run recommendation for me, one of my favorite things I've played this year for sure. So, easy recommendations for both of us. Now, before we get into spoilers, we always do a bit of housekeeping, and that starts with plugs. So, as I said at the top, Moises is a writer, currently writing for Endless Mode, among lots of other places around. So, Moises, tell people about your work and where they can find you.
You can find my work mostly at Endless Mode, which is Paste Magazine's new video game section, which spun off from Paste Games, where I used to
Hmm.
work. You can also find me over at GameSpot. I do a lot of news on the daily, but I've also been pitching in like features here and there, op-eds here and there. I'm really opinionated. You couldn't tell that probably from like following me on Blue Sky, because I'm pretty quiet there outside of like poking in my head to promote things and
Hmm.
occasionally stray stupid thoughts.
What is social media if not promoting your stuff and stray stupid thoughts?
Exactly. And I guess you can, if you're looking for me anywhere, you will no longer find me on Twitter because that is a Nazi cesspool.
Yes.
But you will find me on Blue Sky, at my usual handle, which is Platano Ranger. That's Platano Ranger. Dot bsky.social, whatever.
Right.
If you're on Blue Sky, you know how it's formatted.
Yeah, you know how it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, definitely recommend people check out your work. I'm going to link the Despelote review that you wrote in the show description so people can check it out, because there is a difference between, you know, a written piece of criticism versus a long form discussion like we're having. So I think that people will still find a lot of value in that. And then I will also link your Blue Sky and other places that they can find your work, because I think it is definitely good and worth finding.
I
So
appreciate that.
yeah. Now, I did most of my plugs at the top of the show. I'll just reiterate, Patreon's a good way to support me, patreon.com/realdavejackson. Also, I do have a Discord server. If you for example, if you played Despelote and you'd like to jump in and talk about it with myself and the community, you can do so. We are an active and very friendly and welcoming community. So we would love to have you. There's an invite link down in the show notes for the Discord. And that's it's enough plugs for me. We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, it's gonna be full spoiler time for Despelote. All right, before we get to spoilers for Despelote, I would like to say thank you to the patrons who help support the show. Big thank you goes out to Chris Nelson, the Top 3 Podcast crew, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Ficori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rob Smith, Rigamort, Silcanet, Ashton Ruby, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Joseph Hooper, Yorkie Duval, and many more. Your support is greatly appreciated, and if anyone out there would like to join them, you can do so at patreon.com/realdavejackson, where in addition to some bonus treats, you will also have my everlasting love and respect. So with that being said, let's get back to the show. It is full spoiler time upcoming for Despelote. Okay, we're back. It is full spoiler time for Despelote, and the normal disclaimers, as always. Number one, this is not a linear walk through the game, so we might spoil something that happens very late in the game very quickly. So if you haven't played, again, the game's not very long. Go play it and come back. We will be here. And yeah, I think that's the only disclaimer this time. So I guess I think an interesting way to kick off the spoiler discussion is the title of the game. Despelote. To me and my high school Spanish, it definitely brings to mind the word ball in Spanish, like pelota, but it's obviously not the entire story. And it feels like it's something that I, in my high school Spanish, would not have a good grasp on explaining. So we chatted ahead of time. You said that you have a thought about what does this title mean and how does it relate to the game? So what do you think?
Well, I know what it means.
Yeah.
But not because it is a word that I'm at all familiar with.
Right.
I feel like sometimes people don't entirely know that, like, Spanish is different depending on where you speak it.
Right, exactly, yeah.
There's a bunch of dialects, and these dialects also come with their own slang and whatever. I'm not entirely sure if Despelote is slang. I think it is like a formal term, but it's definitely not one that I grew up hearing ever.
Okay.
My introduction to the word Despelote was seeing the game Despelote.
Yeah.
But then I remember like asking around and looking it up. And actually, I think Stephen Totillo was actually the one who like really got me thinking about it. Because I also thought that Despelote just kind of meant like ball player or something, because I made the same connection of like pelota. But yeah, Stephen Totillo, who former EIC at Kotaku and currently operates GameFile, he asked, I believe, Julián in an interview what Despelote actually means, because he was, I think, writing a piece on good video game titles, and Despelote is a good one.
Yeah,
it's one word. It's an interesting word.
Yeah, memorable word, even if you don't speak Spanish. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, he asked and he got the answer, and I was like, oh, interesting. I had never heard this.
Okay.
And apparently, yeah, Despelote means to make a mess, which is an interesting read on this game, because yes, you can make messes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you might accidentally make messes, like make a mess of like your family's plans by running around in the park and in the mud when you're
Yeah.
like going to the party immediately after,
Mhm.
or just frequently being tardy, kicking glass bottles in alleys that shatter and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I don't necessarily associate making a mess with like what I'm doing in the game.
Okay. I have an idea.
Yeah, hit me with your idea, because I am fascinated by like this as a read on the game.
Right. So I did talk with a friend of the show, another video game critic, Luis Aguas Vivas, about this title. And he told me the same general thing about the meaning of the title. And so we got to talking about how you don't, fuck shit up like terribly, but the country is kind of in a state of a mess. And then one of the cool things we didn't talk about much later is you don't just play as 8-year-old Julián, you play as him as he gets older too. And his life, it seems like kind of messy as you go.
Yes.
So that's like the strongest association I can make with the title is like, it's not that he like fucks his life up irreparably or something like that, but he does, he follows his dream of being a soccer player. It doesn't work out. It seems like he's just kind of floating a little bit from what you can get in the, from the scenes that you get in the game. It seems like he's just kind of aimless in his life after this dream doesn't work out. I think it's probably because he wasn't good enough, but also he hurt his knee really badly and had to like stop playing on the club team he was playing on. And so I don't know if the word, like the title, has the meaning that like you messed this up, like you created this mess, because I don't get that feeling from the game. But there are messes around. There's plenty of messes being made or messes developing, even if they're not, it's not an active thing. Like, that's kind of where I went with it.
Yeah. I kind of like that. It feels honest to like the spirit of the game, because like, the background of everything going on in Quito is like Ecuador's in turmoil. I think even like the games themselves, like the big games going on in the background, like it's not like a perfect run. It's not like no team got shut out. Like it is kind of like a messy scramble, almost for the team to eke out any kind of win. And also, like life is messy, people are messy, right?
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about how like a lot of the neighbors and the characters in the neighborhood are like not archetypical. They're really kind of plain day average Joes. And that is like there's I think a lot of inherent beauty in that, but it's also like, you kind of have to take the good with the bad of that. Of like these are like imperfect people. Everywhere you look, they're messy people, and I think everybody's just kind of like, again, kind of scrambling messily through life, through turmoil. So I like that read. I would certainly prefer it to like Julián made this game about himself fucking shit up. That feels like a cold read on his own history.
Well, it's interesting because like that's the other part of it we didn't talk a whole lot about. I mentioned it, but not with specifics. This is autobiographical. So especially with these scenes when he gets older, there's a bunch of scenes where like he goes to a party and like doesn't have a good time there. And like a lot of people don't like you when you go to the party and try and talk to them. They're like, get out of here. And then like, it turns out he lied to his mom about going to the party. So now his mom is mad at him. And then there's another part where like after that, where she's trying to talk to you, like have a serious like mom to son conversation. And you're just like playing video games and ignoring her. So like that is a bit, that's making a mess of your family relationships. But for this to be an autobiographical thing, for the developer to write it in a way that's like so honest, like I was not nice to my mom. I was not receptive and respective of her, and like me causing her all of these worries and stuff. It's really interesting for it to be as honest as it is, because it doesn't portray him as a hero in any way.
Oh, no, not at all.
It really portrays him in a way where, like, he made a bunch of mistakes, as young people do. We all did. It's really, I find this like really interesting how it veers kind of off the course of like the pitch for the game, the World Cup run. That's only like, I don't know, 2/3 of the story. The other part of it is you get these other scenes where he's older, and it's not to say that life is shitty, but like he's making mistakes. His dreams are not working out. Like that party scene, at least the way I interacted with people, no one really wanted to hang out with me at that party. So to have like this look at somebody's life through this really honest lens, it was interesting to me. And it kind of fits in with that idea of making a mess. Like, did he at some point feel like he had made a mess of his life?
Yeah. That party scene is so brutal to get through.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, especially within the context of like, he's a teenager here, like he's 15 maybe, when this happens. Yet I was not a partier as a teenager. I was a partier like after I left high school.
Right, me too.
And yeah, so I was a similarly messy drunk, and may or may not have thrown up in some people's rooms, and may or may not have like once gone to a party, had like 2 beers, 1 red Solo cup full of wine, some fireball shots, and then like some pulls from a joint, and been like, oh, I've done abundantly like too much.
Yeah,
I'm a mess right now.
Yeah, we've all been there for
like,
sure.
Anyone I'm talking to right now must think like I am some belligerent like ass.
Yeah,
who is maybe not reflective of the real me, but is nonetheless like what I am putting forth for these people right now. And I feel so bad for Julián having this experience much earlier than I did, because at least like for me, I was like 20-ish when this happened.
Yeah.
So like I was at least a little older. Like I feel like people, I mean, 20-year-olds are not much better than 15-year-olds. They're a little better. They're a little bit more patient. They're a little bit more understanding with you. And especially in these situations, they understand like things can go sideways and a person can get fucked up. As a teenager, like Julián does this and he becomes like kind of the laughingstock of the party. You try and like sit down with those kids in the room upstairs and they're just kind of like, ew, no, like we don't really want you. Like some girl like in the kitchen will like tell you, we'll be like, oh yeah, he's been drinking like the wine, or like he looks like a mess. And then like I think he has that scene where he like crawls under the table there, and sees like younger him. Yeah.
At least when I was like 19 and 20 making those mistakes at parties, everyone else was making those mistakes at parties.
Exactly.
And I didn't get that feeling from the party that you go to in the game here. The other thing about that party,
baby's first
party. Yeah, I mean, the first time I got drunk was a fucking disaster, like, for everybody involved, for myself and everyone around me. The other thing about that party that I thought was interesting is there's a soccer ball that you can find. Yeah. It's out in the distance, and you can go get it and start kicking it around like you do in the rest of the game, like when you were younger. And nobody at the party gives a shit about soccer anymore. And it's kind of heartbreaking because like you were playing through the time when all anyone cared about was soccer. And then years later, the experience, the high of the World Cup run is faded, and you get out a soccer ball, which used to be your way to connect with your friends in the park. You'd always take the ball to the park and you'd find that group of 3 kids and you kick the ball around with them. And then at the party, everyone's like, man, you still care about soccer? Like, what's wrong with you, dude? And it's kind of heartbreaking. Like, I kind of feel like that has to be an autobiographical memory of like, I'm still excited about this thing. I still love this thing. Translate this to anything that you might have held on to a little bit too long from childhood, when like the people around you stopped caring about it and suddenly you're not cool because you still care about Pokemon. or something like that, right?
Yeah, for us, it's probably video games, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Me going to my 20-year high school reunion being like, yeah, I do a podcast about video games. And they're like, okay.
you know, sometimes I'll look at like the Instagram pages of people that I went to high school with, and they're like married and in Florida or whatever, and I'm like, I live in the same apartment that I lived in high school. I'm like a few blocks away from my high school at any given point. And I write about video games, and like, do I feel entirely good about these decisions and where we've all landed? And yeah, I feel like Julián has that experience just so much earlier than he should.
Yeah.
But I think it comes back around at the very like end of the
Yeah.
game, in I think a similar way to, I mean, at least for me, and you could speak for yourself, but like I held on to like my passion for video games, and you know, it
Yeah.
ostracized me a bit growing up, but I held to it, and I think I grew in other ways in the meantime. But I clung to it, and eventually, like, it brought me back round to like a community of people who do like fuck with it and fuck with me, and
Yeah.
you know, like it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah. Dude, that's why we're here doing this podcast, is because both of us held on to it past the point when, you know, a lot of people dropped off, and then it comes around to the point where like this passion that we have allows the two of us in real life to meet at PAX and, you know, have a good time, get to know each other a bit, and now we're here connecting
Don't
about
look
this
back
game.
in anger at
Yeah,
karaoke.
Yeah, multiple
Twice.
times. Yeah. Yeah, twice in a row. Yeah. That holding on to your passion, like, cause like the way that like the whims of teenagers change and fads go in and out, and the peer pressure to stay up on what's cool and stuff like that. Like, I'm glad that both of us held on to it. And I'm glad for other people who like, maybe you dropped off because of that back in the day, but now you're coming back around, because now, like in my case, I'm almost 40. I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about like my hobbies and passions, as long as they're not destructive to others. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't care about anybody else, whatever you're passionate about, that's what brings a lot of value to a lot of our lives. So for that to be something that we still have, even though there was a moment when it was not cool, it was decidedly not cool to be it. Probably you can probably expand that to anything except for like, if you were a football player, it was always cool to be a football player.
Yeah,
But
pretty much.
yeah, but like, you know, people who are here with the discussion with us, if you're really into video games or anime or something like that, comic books, there was a point when that was not fucking cool, and you were not cool if you were super into that. But if we've held on to it or rediscovered those things, that's awesome.
It feels like a point that really dovetails pretty well with what I feel like is part of the thesis for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like the developer Julián is holding on to like this memory of this culture that he grew up in.
Yeah.
And even though, as the teenage section of the game like shows, like soccer kind of falls out of, you know, it's like a fad. It kind of comes and goes, and he sticks with it. Like he is fighting to keep it alive, even if it's just for himself. Almost in the same way that like the developer Julián is so painfully reconstructing this memory of the time to make sure that like people don't forget soccer, but like also like how important it was to him, like how important like his upbringing in Quito was to him. It all like loops back into just like me feeling like Despelote is like a fight to preserve like the specificity of a time and place.
Yeah. So let's talk about the way that plays out, because I think it's really interesting how this goes. So for the first 4 soccer matches, you watch them on TVs, they're FMV highlights. And then there comes a certain point in the game when this moment hits really, it's like striking when it happens. You're like, you get out, you're running down a staircase, there's a soccer ball down there, you go to kick it, and when you kick it, the game's graphics instantly snap to this like kind of cursed realistic 3D scan of this park in Quito. And the developer like kind of like narrates, but it's like kind of talking to you as the player a little bit about making the game. And he talks about like why the park was constructed, what memories he had of the park as he was older playing soccer. But you haven't seen the moment yet that you've been waiting for. You've been playing and like experiencing these games, these matches. So the situation is when you get to the end, Ecuador needs a tie at the very least, I think, to make it to the World Cup. And they're playing Uruguay, and you've been watching the other ones. And so you're waiting for this moment because it's going to be this big celebration. You're going to get to experience it with all the people in the game. And like, it's kind of a rug pull. And the developer straight up tells you, like, really interesting how he does it. He says, we tried to recreate it and we couldn't do it. So you don't actually get to like experience it the way you experience the other matches. He kind of talks about like, we couldn't recreate this moment. And then he shows you the moment where they scored the goal to tie the game, and it has an advertisement going. It reminded me, you remember the Cerveza Cristal meme that went around a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
It reminded me of that. What did you think of this like ending section? It gets super meta and kind of talks about the experience of making the game, and almost like kind of admitting in a way that they couldn't finish the project the way they maybe wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I love a meta twist in anything, really. This is why I love Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's why I still need to watch Neon Genesis, like the rebirth for Evangelion. It is striking.
Yeah.
I felt like, considering the fact that Julián, the developer, is like narrating the game, it always kind of felt like the game was idly like working its way up to a fourth wall break. I can say I like pretty safely I did not expect the one that we got.
Yeah.
I mean, it maintains the spirit of like the game, like, you know, it's painfully honest. It's maybe even a little awkward, you know. There's a lot of time that you spend in that like kind of section after like he pulls away the almost like the filter of the world, and like he reveals like the 3D scan like meshy environment where it's just kind of quiet. He like kind of lets you like explore it, and it's, first off, it's bigger than you think. It's way bigger than you think. I felt like I could run for miles in there, but then he like, you know, he kind of pipes in every now and then, and like just has like this really frank discussion about, like we couldn't make the game, we couldn't make like this specific ending to the game the way that we really wanted to, and I think this is it's a refreshing way to end it for me, because like I almost don't need that for this journey to have felt complete. As a matter of fact, like I think it's pretty incomplete, and that is great. I don't know. I've never been one to care much for like precise endings. Like I think like if you pull like a big swing, you know, like I would like for it to connect, but I will often just also appreciate the swing anyways. And this kind of feels like, yes, it admits this game didn't entirely come together like 100% the way that we envisioned it, but like by engaging in like that dialogue with the player then, and kind of like stripping the artifice from it all, I don't know, it feels like Julián, the developer, has told all the story like he needs to by the end.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. throughout the game, like you said, you've been getting that narration, but it always felt like narrating the story and not narrating the story of like it always felt like telling the story of the World Cup run, or maybe extend it a little bit into his teenage years. But it never felt like you were being told the story of the development of the game. And that's the switch that happens. And I'm with you. Like, I wasn't mad at this. I thought it was really interesting to kind of say, like, this moment felt, it was interesting too, because the moment feels a little anticlimactic, like when you watch the highlight, because there's that advertisement running, dominating the sound when that goal is scored, this like the magical moment, the moment when Ecuador qualifies, or like it's the goal that qualifies them if the rest of the game plays out. And it did, and they made it. And so in the game, that moment feels equally anticlimactic in a way, like in a way that works for me.
Yeah.
To say like the moment wasn't perfect in real life, it's not perfect in the game either.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
And it's just like it feels like a moment that like it communicates that like this game was never really all about them winning at the end. You know,
Right.
the run at the World Cup is like the context under which something like more personally important to Julián happens.
Yeah.
And like this kind of this charts it. Like it is more than the team's run at the cup. It's like his love for the game and his love for the place and the time. And like even though like it's kind of a rug pull that leaves maybe some players thinking like that's it, like I don't get the end of the story. It's like no, the end of the story is this game, Despelote. The game is the ending to the story. It got made.
Yeah.
You know, Julián like to take the game's title again, like quite literally, like if like we're to believe that most of the game's events are like pretty one-to-one to Julián's life, like he grew up loving football. He had a run at it. You know, it didn't go entirely the way he wished it would, you know, and like he feels kind of like he made a mess of his life, or like his life was made a mess by circumstance. He stumbled through awkward teenagedom. But then by the end, you know, like even though things are imperfect, like the epilogue kind of plays out after this, and his parents seem like they've separated.
Yeah.
He's like back in town, it seems like, and he's seeing some friends.
And
like,
things seem okay.
Things seem okay. You know, like he seems like he has landed in almost like the place that real Julián had to like fight really hard to land in order to also be okay and see this project through to its completion.
Yeah. I like the way that the game takes that kind of meta turn at the end. And the game, the story, everything has always kind of been about the place also. And so we're kind of fast forwarding, like, yeah, the World Cup run is over. Ecuador did not become a soccer powerhouse. This was one moment in time. But look what it did for the city. Because of the World Cup run, the park that you're running around in at the end, they built that park because of the World Cup run and the increased interest in soccer and stuff like that. And, you know, you get this one example, like you said, it's a huge park. It's bigger than the one you ran around in as a kid in the game. So you get to see an effect of this, even though, you know, people may have fallen off the soccer fandom. There was an effect on the city. And they do say, like, at the end, like, when you're going through that park, like, again, doing the meta thing, talking about the development, we brought our sound designer to this park to capture the real sound of the park. And we had to hire a security guard because it's not the safest place. So again, it's like it's still telling you like the real thing, the real situation there, just from that modern point of view. And using that 3D scan, it looks terrible, but it's real in a way to just be like, I don't know, real life doesn't look super pretty all the time either. And so like maybe comparing the way you see the world now, or the way you see this place now, maybe compared to like that really beautiful hazy memory from the way the art style looked when you were a little kid in the game.
Mhm.
The art style choice to like they got the scan and they're like, this doesn't look like a real place. This looks rough. This looks like, an alpha build of an N64 game. Like it's pretty brutal. But like they put it in the game, and they admitted to not being able to capture the moment and do it justice when that winning goal was scored, and when they got into the World Cup. They don't show anything from the actual World Cup games. It's, I don't know, it's messy. That's the word mess has been used throughout the spoiler section, I guess, but it's raw, it's real. Like polishing that stuff up and making it look super pretty, I don't think would make the end of this game better.
Yeah.
So why do it?
I wonder at what point in the game's development that ending sequence kind of came together.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was thinking about that too. How many games are out there where like they couldn't capture the ending the way they wanted to, but they still put the game out and didn't talk about it, Like how many people are out there putting out stuff that they're a little bit dissatisfied with? I mean, I've done podcasts where I come out of the recording, not this one, where I come out of the recording and be like, man, I don't know. Like I could have done better. And that's a real thing for creative people, right? Like I'm sure you've written stuff and you're like, I don't feel like I tapped into what I wanted to tap into. It's a thing that we all deal with when we make anything. Why would it be any different for a game developer? The only difference is in Despelote, they just tell you like, we couldn't do it the way we wanted to. And now we're going to talk a little bit, person to person almost about the rest of the experience of making the game and, stuff like that. It's very interesting. I wasn't mad at it. Because I got
love it.
that experience of the World Cup run. I got that experience. I get it. Like I understand what they were doing and it worked. And then we got the rest of, the parts of his life that he wanted to show to us. We got that. And now we're going to wrap up with this little twist that it's just cool and honest. And I mean, this game was cool and honest the entire time.
That's the tagline right there. Cool and
There we
honest.
go.
I've like thought about that twist like in the one sense, and I have about as much clarity on it now as I did back then, but it still just feels like such a revelatory thing. Because it's just like especially like in this industry that is so closed off and secretive all the time. This game is a breath of fresh air for like so many other reasons, and then like also this really frank discussion comes at the end, pointed directly at you, and kind of like almost asks the player like to be okay with like this game coming in like out imperfectly or like unfinished almost. But then like kudos to the team, like they handle it so well and they wrap it up in like the narrative so well that it doesn't feel like this admission of like guilt so much as like an active part of the storytelling. And like I'm not saying I need every game to like strip the artifice from it and like tell me like the world is ugly, making video games is ugly, but like life is still beautiful. But
the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, like Tetsuya Nomura gets on there and starts talking to you about how hard it was. Like I don't need that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't need all of that, but it is a really a much appreciated like human touch at the end of this like, very human game. And then it like after that it wraps up with your kind of years later coming to Quito. You have a conversation with your mom about just kind of like where you're staying, I guess, because you're going to another party. This time you're much older, and like things seem to be good there, especially because this scene follows like so closely after the tense encounter you have with your mom after the party where you get shit faced. And like a lot of the moments, a thing that we're maybe not communicating as much is like a lot of these moments kind of like start blurring into one another a lot more than is typical throughout the game at this point. The game kind of like fuzzily fades out of the vignettes
Mm-hmm.
first half of the game, or like the first 2/3 of the game, and then by the time you start getting to the first of like the teenage Julián sections, like the moments are kind of like bleeding into one another. There's like a really cool moment, and at this point I'm kind of hopping around a little bit,
It's okay.
random points at the end, but like there's a moment where like you are playing the video game in the video game,
Yeah.
and like usually that ends after like a few goals, and like the story dictates that like you turn off the TV and like step away, but like the last time that you play it, you stay in the game,
Yeah.
and
You run out of
get
the
to leave
stadium
the
playing as the little
stadium,
guy.
playing from the top down perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
then realize like the world outside of the stadium in the video game is just your neighborhood. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to make out from a different perspective, but like you eventually start identifying like, oh, this is the park, this is the street that takes me to my house, and then like and then you get there, and then it moves on to the next sequence. But like a lot of these moments start surreally blending into one another here, and so it all feels
Yeah.
really hazy. But like again, to comment on like the kind of like how much I value like the game and Julian's honesty, it feels like trying to cling to a thing like slipping past you.
Yeah. Or, memories blurring together during a part in your life when maybe you felt a little aimless,
Yeah.
or unmoored or something like that. So yeah, they just kind of slide together until you get to that ending scene. And I like that ending scene is there when, you talk to your mom, then you go to the park with some friends that you're going to go to the party with, and you just kick a soccer ball around, and it kind of brings it all the way back. Soccer is not uncool anymore, which is nice to see. And everyone's in good spirits. Julian is excited about, the party and stuff like that. And
then you become the soccer ball.
and then you become the soccer ball. It's
I
the last meta twist.
I love that shot.
Yeah,
I
it's great.
love it so much.
Yeah, you go in the perspective of the ball, someone kicks it out of the playground, and then you get bounced from place to place and person to person.
Yeah.
They find a ball, they kick it off, it lands in front of another person, and that's the way the game ends.
Yeah. It just kind of ends with like an overhead shot of like the neighborhood from the sky, from the ball's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, honestly, I think I couldn't say anything like after getting to that scene. It's like a game in an end sequence that like genuinely left me like speechless.
That part when like that conversation with your friends in the park is wrapping up and the music is starting to fade in and play, and then like you have like this light under, this music underneath, and then when the ball gets kicked out of the park and that ending sequence begins, the music really kicks in. And that, like I said earlier, tactical deployment of the music, but it's like the music is giving you permission to just like exhale, things are okay. And that brought tears to my eyes when that moment came up, and the ball started, and the music kicked in, and the ball's now being bounced around, and I can tell we're winding down the game, the credits are coming soon, but you got that last little feeling like everything's okay. It's going to be okay. Soccer's cool again. Julián has figured enough out that we're okay.
And like every person that like the ball bounces between is like, it's his community. You know?
And they're all taking the simple pleasure of like, this soccer ball bounced up to me, I might as well give it a good kick, good stuff. Let's see, anything else about Despelote before we wrap up here?
No, man, everyone should play it.
Yeah. Just to reiterate that.
Yeah, you should really play it. Like, I know that, I mean, if you've listened this far, we spoiled the game for you. So I hope you've played it. But even if you haven't played it and you just listen to this, it's still very worth playing.
Yeah, like that meta twist and stuff, that still was really cool the second time I played it, even though I knew it was coming. So like the best games are not ruined by spoilers.
Yeah.
I mean, big moments might be dulled a little bit if you know that a character dies at a certain point or something like that. But the best stories and the best games are not ruined by being spoiled. I still take the time and the effort to not spoil things on the show, but if you're still here with us and you haven't played Despelote, I think it will still hit. And if you're still here, it's because you're really interested in what the game is doing and or you really like the sound of our voices. And all of those are valid reasons to still be here. So cool. Well, Moises, thank you for taking the time to talk about the game with me. This has been a really awesome discussion. I'm really glad you were on board for it.
Thank you for having me. I promised myself that I would be annoying about Despelote, and then I only really published the one piece about it because indie coverage can only happen so much the way the games media works. So it's actually really, I'm deeply grateful actually for you inviting me here to talk about this.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to have had the conversation with you, and I'm glad that we got to talk about the things that we did. It ended up being going into more personal territory from time to time than, a lot of discussions on the show do, as this game, I think, brings out. So good discussion. And you said you wanted to be more annoying about Despelote. There's nothing more annoying than doing podcasts. So thank you, man. I'll put links to your writing and a specific link to the review for Despelote that you wrote down in the show notes. So people can please go check that out. It's worth a read, even after 2 hours of listening to us talk about the game. So yeah, time to end the show. Thank you for listening/watching, everybody. Appreciate you. If you're here at the end, you are my hero. And as always, tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
Welcome to No Small Games, the indie gaming recap and review podcast. I'm Kate, also known as Cater Blossom.
And I'm Emily. You might also know me online as The Specific Egg.
And we met streaming and playing video games on Twitch.
At No Small Games, we combine our favorite genres to experience everything the indie game world has to offer and share it with all of you. We believe there are no small games, only small game studios.
Each episode, we'll choose one indie game that we each played separately and discuss our playthrough experience together.
The good, the bad, and our most memorable moments. We'll follow our recap with a review and announcement of which indie game will be featured on our next episode.
We invite you to play each game along with us and would love to hear from you about your playthrough experience.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, Emily.
I hope that No Small Games brings everyone some big fun.
You should listen to the Character Issues podcast. It's a scientific podcast where me, Brian Edwards, your host du jour, and my co-hosts, Leah Haydu,
everyone loves Blitzball. I hate Blitzball. Fuck Blitzball.
And Rich Davison.
Are you implying that he intentionally tried to run over his daughter and then sort of bloviated a journey around Silent Hill to make sure that she could bleed out in the process?
Work towards building a list of the greatest video game characters of all time. Every character will be ranked. Every character shall be ranked. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast. Character Issues is available for download. So, if you're interested in the hard-nosed science and definitely not a comedy podcast hosted by a couple of numbskulls, you should check out the Character Issues podcast because, let's face it, it's better if you do.